All right. I guess if we have our first presenter, we can go ahead and get started and give other folks some time to trickle in. So it's 3:31. Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order, starting with the approval of the June 26th meeting minutes. Are there any changes from the committee members?
None for me.
Okay.
Nope, none for me.
So neither for me, and I approve as written. So go ahead and approve those. Any announcements for the good of the whole? All right, and let's jump into our business then, starting with the Art in Public Places Commission. I believe Ana Valles will be the presenter, but if there's any staff presenter or a combination of both, please feel free to go for it.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I'll be presenting. I know Roberta is here just as a backup. If you have any questions, she's the best person to answer those. So thank you so much for having me presenting our annual report. So we can go to the next slide. So our mission statement is the mission of the Art in Public Places program is to capture the pulse of the community by contributing to neighborhood development and economic vitality, and by engaging the many voices of Aurora through art and culture. This is the list of commissioner. I'm Ana Valles. I'm the chair of the commission, your presenter today. So we are doing this presentation based on our goals from our 5-year planning. So one of our goals was to build awareness around the public art plan and augment the plan of the AIPP program. So this is a list of everything we did this year. We did some tours of the public art that we have in the city, from retired educators of Cherry Creek to Colfax Canvas to the Leadership Aurora group. Also development staff and other department training PowerPoint. We updated our maps. We have had some media exposure. I know Roberta has been covering for Carla Ferreira, talking about the Aurora Highlands on the media as well. The Aurora Highlands won the Colorado Business Committee for the Arts Award. This year, we also are part of Aurora Creates, and we're also part of our Art Plus Business Connection with the Aurora Chamber of Commerce. Roberta and I are part of the executive committee, so we plan activities around art and business, and we attend all the meetings, the monthly meetings as well. Our next goal is embrace and encourage diversity, equity, and inclusion in all aspects of Aurora's public art program and collection. So we're working towards this in different ways. Not only we are working on diversity of the commission, trying to make our commission more diverse, but also we have developed art selection panels that reflects Aurora diversities. We are also focusing a lot of bringing new artists to our collection. For example, an artist that worked with us for the Aurora Municipal Courthouse Jury Room Small Works project. We're also creating diversity in new materials, for example, for the Aurora Municipal Courthouse mural project as well. We also have 4 new artists in the Art2C on Havana Street for 2024-2026. And as well, we have new applicants for the Water Partnership. So we had already 3 new artists as finalists. These are the 3 winners of the Art2C in Havana. The first one, the one first place is Fanny Chanel on your right. I think the second one is the Eternal Echoes, and third place is Parent and Child. The next goal is prioritize public art projects that align with the city initiatives and placemaking efforts. You can see here an image of the proposed 9-mile pedestrian bridge designed by Vicky Scurry. We are working on creating new partnerships. For example, we work with Aurora Water, with the Educational Initiative, as well with the Highline Canal Conservancy Triple Creek site. We're also participating in 2250-150 initiative. It says Quisemiquincentennial. I don't know if I say that right. Also with the Central Rec Center, exterior park plaza, playing fields, and creation of mini wetlands. We've also been nimble, flexible. For example, we responded to the Aurora Municipal Courthouse request for public art. As well, working with the 9-mile pedestrian bridge. The artist is just beginning of updating the original design and with the context of the new bridge. Just we had to make some adjustments. We made additional funding so we can create this. This is your examples. This is a proposed 9-mile pedestrian bridge design. And on the right, we have Florence, which is already installed in the new art rec center. Other goal is be excellent stewards of the public art collection. So we work on the restoration of colors, which now it's called More Color. We completed the ghost trolley restoration, and it was just installed, I think, a couple of weeks ago, which also had a lot of media exposure. We had also like some social media as well, photos there. We work on the restoration and relocation of Cowell. We have been working on the 720 annual maintenance, Aspire replacement glass, Beers of Aurora, Side Creek Park, and the station of Spotlight Aurora, and more intersection of art and function benches. Here are some pictures of the ghost trolley, where it was. We had the installation in 2022, and as I say, we just reinstalled it like a couple of weeks ago. Streamline of AIPP policies and processes. We formalized a relationship with the Havana Business Improvement District in a MOA for Art to See on Havana Street temporary sculpture exhibition. We align our policies and procedures to be more consistent with changes to Aurora's purchasing policies and approval process. We also work with the company 9.arts, and which we hired to facilitate for our station number 9 selection process. Temporary fixes to Amanda process for private development reviews while we await for permanent changes in Amanda. And we're planning for the future. We already scheduled our annual meeting, which is coming up in January of 2025, where we will take a look at long and short-term priorities for the year. We'll be talking about ongoing projects, as well new project prioritization, including the new animal shelter, exploring BRT opportunities, partnering with the Highline Canal Conservancy, and more. We are also focusing on maintenance. This is an ongoing work for all of our collection. I know Roberta and Amber work so hard on this piece, as well private development technology. We will continue to do community engagement and outreach. We participated in different events, and we plan to continue to do that. As well as staffing to address programs needs that grows. Our collection is growing. The needs of the community are growing. So definitely it's something to consider the staff needs going forward. So thank you so much. I don't know if you have any questions for me or Roberta here.
Are there any questions for our presenters?
Yes, I have just one. It was exciting to see some of the images of the newer art installations and reinstallations. I'm wondering if we could maybe schedule a tour for the committee and then invite the rest of council as well. I think, as we're having a conversation about the expansion of the program, the needs for maintenance and refurbishment of some older pieces, as well as the work that it takes as the city continues to grow and has required installations of public art. Maybe it would be beneficial to council to see that art and to just have some way of understanding the magnitude of the job, so that we have, just people understanding the justification for additional staff. You're on mute, Roberta.
I'll just chime in real quick. Yeah, thanks to everybody on there, Roberta, and all your staff. I know I've been on a couple of selection panels, and you guys have had some really great people, and certainly local people as well. So I certainly appreciate that. So thank you for your hard work.
And thank you, Ruben, for participating. Alison, of course, we're happy to accept your request for a tour, and we'll be in touch with you, I guess, to get that, find a time and get that arranged. Well, and think about, I mean, Aurora is a really big city. So think about what part of the collection you'd like to tour. Do you want to look at the art district, or we could do a tour of the AMC campus? I mean, we're going to have to pick out a tiny little piece, or we could do a tour a month. I mean, whatever works for you.
I mean, I would be open to your recommendations of what you think would help, again, council as a whole understand changes to the collection or significant needs in the collection. So maybe looking at areas out east that have new development would be maybe a more effective approach, but I'm very much open to your thoughts on what you think would be best.
Great. Well, I think we'll put that on our agenda for the commission meeting, Anna. How about that? And have that discussion amongst the commission.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Thank
think
you.
it's a great idea and a great opportunity.
Thank you.
Great. I didn't have any additional questions. Sounds like Councilmember Medina didn't either. So thank you, Anna. Thank you, Roberta, for your time and for your presentation.
Awesome. Thank you.
Apologies, working through my agenda. All right. We have the 2024 Aurora Public Library Board annual report. I'm not clear who the presenter is, but feel free to get us started.
Okay, wonderful. Hello, Patrick Wagner. I'm here with the library board. Excuse my voice too. I think we got some allergies going on and this time of year, but really appreciate everyone's time and the opportunity to kind of talk and go through this. So, basically, the purpose of this presentation, of course, is to keep you up to date, to give you an overview of the budget, kind of what we're working on, what's going on. It's been a really fun year, I think, especially with the transition and bringing on a new team and even growing the board, which we're finally up to 7 members, which is the most we've had since my short stint over the past 2 years or so with the board. So real quickly, as many of you know, we have 7 branches and a bookmobile. We have some exciting updates with the MLK branch and a huge remodel that we're doing on the 2nd floor. And then, of course, the bookmobile, too, has been so active in our community and just helping with exposure and programming. So I don't know, it seems like this year has been really fun in terms of all these big things that are going on. So what does that look like? Let me grab my notes. So community connectors, I think all of us, especially even my role coming into this, my interest in joining the library board and is just how libraries have shifted from sort of a book depository or a way to disseminate information into more of a community convening aspect that I think is really crucial and something that has changed, I feel, over the past few decades. So this right here, we talk about kind of what programming, what that looks like, how libraries sort of fit the relative need of communities. And there's just so much programming, I think, is a big aspect of what we do. We have our physical hard copies of books, and we have the ability to, of course, lend those out for a community to read and help with literacy. But also we do so many programming to kind of connect our community together. So what does that look like? We do a lot of different events at different locations. Some are online, some are in person. And also some are geared towards kids and teenagers and young adults and active adults and kind of all through the realm. So we also help with job applications. We help provide government assistance to provide the information, health, anything like that is all sort of the programming, or at least what libraries have kind of turned into as a true source for the community. So jump to next slide. Thank you. Awesome. So we brought this up especially because I think we all have a good feel for children and kind of early literacy, and our Aurora Scholars program is very popular. We have great participation there. But we wanted to highlight just one real quickly on an example of the Aurora Commission for Older Adults. They're looking at everything through a different lens than I think you and I, or maybe our younger members. And it was really interesting. They approached the library and they wanted to find a way to partner and to kind of solve some issues that they're looking at. And really, I think the undervalued aspect of this too is even just the ability to convene for free, just to come in, sit down, have a place that you can talk and work through, and especially with some of this programming that really kind of answers the call. Recently too, we had there's this Colorado Association of Libraries. They call it CowCon, but it's an annual event that was held in Breckenridge this year that really goes through, looks across the landscape, looks at different libraries, what's going on, how trustees are working, funding levels, just all sorts of issues and things to talk about. And honestly, I was fortunate enough to attend this whole trustee track of learning how in my role I can be of help, or I can help guide the direction, or maybe just do the outreach, the advisory aspects. And it was such a treat because I really think we have exceptional employees here in Aurora. We actually had two that gave a very that were tasked to present at this sort of statewide convening. Tessie Walker and Andrea North that work in our library system, and they did such a great job talking about communication breakdowns, and they've actually been asked to go and kind of help provide some training online. And it's just one thing that I think our librarians, our staff are just so almost entrepreneurial in their thinking of how to help communities and of course do their basic job. Next slide. Thank you. So we have this infographic because sometimes we get questions on, what does it look like exactly? What is the main aspects of the library? Checkouts, library cards, probably two of the biggest data points. So what happened in 2023, as we're still in 2024, still collecting that data, but we had more than 1.2 million checkouts. So that includes print, electronic, it can be a book, it can be a magazine, it can be something online, but I think it's really exceptional. So sometimes the question pops up of what is the need, or how big is the area that we're serving, and I think 1.2 million checkouts is pretty exceptional. What does that translate into? I think that pulls into visits. We had 580,000 patrons visit our library branches, and I think that feeds into, most of the time they're going there to check out a book, Sometimes they're going into study. Maybe they're attending one of our classes, or programming. There's so many elements, I think, that can pull people together. And I think it's so exceptional because talking with library supervisors in different branches, they really feel the community's different need. And sometimes that is maybe in the summer, more childcare oriented, reading access, safe place to kind of spend the time. Or in other communities, it looks more of kind of the older adults, and what that looks like, and the ability to convene as a community. So how much programs, what did that look like? We had 159,000 different programs. These can be online. Our staff does a really good job of printing out a monthly snapshot that's available electronically, but also when you walk into any library branch, you can kind of pull one up and you can see everything that's going on. And these are typically 6-7 pages long. So if you're ever curious what we're doing, that's probably the best way to see real quickly. Computer usage. You would think that this would be, especially in 2024, something where we all have smartphones or laptops, and many times we do, but also there's older adults, or there's other community members that don't have access and have difficulty accessing electronic usage. So 139,000 sort of check-in sessions for computers. And if you really think about it, there's nothing else out there. If you want to access a computer for free, your library is probably your only shot, unless you're in school or whatnot. So it's something that's pretty big. And then finally, questions. Our librarians get a lot of questions, over 500,000, that our librarians could probably tell you a lot more, but there's so many questions. Book recommendations, English as a second language programming, how do I get a library card? All these are kind of bundled up, and I'm always proud to see how our staff is always listening, fulfilling. Anyone can walk into libraries and, of course, ask a question. So, next slide. Okay. So we heard about art in public places earlier, which is beautiful. It's really cool. So we'll kind of shift into budget a little bit and what that looks like for the library. And we have some data points on, especially if you're interested, which I'm sure you are, of where does the money go, what divisions, how many employees. We currently have 56 FTEs in library services specifically, as well as an additional 6 that are in kind of the collection management backend support. So what does that look like? That's roughly about $5.5 million a year. At least that's what we're looking at right now. And we actually have done a lot of research and diving into what other communities are doing, or library, like how does Denver look at it? How does the Western Slope? How does, library funding look nationwide or just within Colorado? So we'll get to those slides in just a second, but if you have any other questions too on this slide, we can dive deeper, but this is sort of in a snapshot of how we're programming or looking into spending the money that we have for the budget. So next slide. Okay, I know this one's kind of hard to see, but we wanted to show you laterally, or at least during a time series, of what the funding looks like, especially compared to like the 4 biggest library systems or the populations that we serve. This is probably the big problem, or maybe thing that we need to really look at and examine. If you look all the way to the right of this chart and go down, it's basically the expenses per capita. So this is how much we're spending as a library system per person in the community. And you'll kind of go through, you can see anything is really Adams County. We have Arapahoe County, we have Denver, we have Douglas County. These are all just kind of our neighbors. But APL right down there, we are spending $18 per person or per capita for library funding. Now that sounds great. That's like, okay, $18 per person. Some people use it, some people don't. That's always variable. But if you look up and compare to Adams County or Arapahoe or Denver, they're closer to $100 in spending per person. And I think the challenge with that is Aurora is a growing city. We are expanding also geographically too, in the northeast corner, and of course southeast always. And I'm sure east is kind of going to be the direction for us. And I think for the library board and also as we're looking at resources and planning, how do we fit the needs of these new communities while also servicing our existing communities? And I think it's a real challenge because if you look at some of the other larger populations or library systems that are in Colorado, we are close to the bottom, if not the bottom, for per capita spending, which is pretty remarkable. So like in 2023, $6.8 million was sort of for the library here in Aurora. And if you compare that to, let's just say Arapahoe, because Denver is its own beast, they had a budget of $45 million. So the way to almost think about that is, what more are they doing and for their community that we are not even thinking about or able to really match? So, and all this data too, especially council members, if you have any questions, we can provide. There's a really good Institute of Museum and Library Science website that also has state library statistics. So you can really go into any sort of detail, or if you're curious on kind of where this data takes us. So next slide. So I mentioned this chart's probably a little bit easier to read, but I mentioned that per capita spending being kind of in the teens compared to other larger library systems, which are, maybe at the 100 mark. But we wanted to put this up here because if you look at the part, if we're actually comparing per capita spending, we're looking closer, like we're right in between Park County, Wetmore Community, a Bookmobile in Lincoln County. Moffett County and Costilla County are spending even more than we are. And I think that's probably the biggest thing, that it's such a dire situation on how we can serve this community in Aurora. We are basically at the bottom compared. So I've been really, I don't know, just grateful and impressed with like the professionalism of our librarians, how that they're so entrepreneurial, they're so great at what they do, but we're truly operating on a shoestring budget compared to any other place almost in Colorado. So next slide. So as we're looking at this, and especially looking across, the United States, we've done a few comparison just to put it all, because maybe Colorado just spends a lot on libraries, and that's fantastic, and other states don't. But pulling that per capita income, how much we spend per person, nationwide, it's about $41 per person for libraries. And again, we're at 17. So we're not even close to the national average. And then in Colorado, probably because of the way the Denver Public Library and some of our other library systems are structured, they're actually higher than the nationwide average. They're at maybe $72 per person in spending. So we are very low. So I think especially with budgets, it's never easy. It's always hard to allocate what to cut in, what to leave out. But I think looking across everywhere, it's really low for how much we're spending. So next slide. So what are we doing about it? We are trying our absolute hardest to cultivate relationships, to grow, to look at fundraising. It's been awesome. We actually just met with the board for the Friends of Aurora Public Library, which is kind of an organization that operates the book outlet down on Islet and Peoria, and they sell used books, and they give us essentially money every year. And looking back, we did a 12-year total. They have contributed over $500,000. They've been probably our most consistent partner for fundraising, and that is exceptional. We always appreciate and love, any sort of help. But it's also kind of a drop in the hat too. So last year we started to think about, is there like a big event or some way that we can rally, that we can kind of make it more of a muscle memory of trying to reach out to the community and members, and we hosted this Katrina Ball, which, despite our best efforts of getting corporate sponsors, having the actual event, and I know many of you were in attendance too, but having the actual event in the Central Library with a band and kind of focusing on the community and trying to see how much money we could raise. We were only able to raise about $12,000, which is very, very nominal, and actually led us this year to put that on hold as we think of how can we better, reorient or focus. So other things that we've been doing, Mission Viejo Library, we have, I know Councilwoman Coombs, hello, you were helping us get some one-time funds for that, $75,000. And next summer is the 50-year anniversary of the Mission Viejo Library. So we're doing a fundraising event right now, and using that $75,000 as a seed, and we call it the 150 for 50, where we're trying to double that basically, and just redo the inside, new carpeting, any sort of thing that can make it kind of a better or beautiful library. I love that library. It's just such a unique architectural gem. So we're working on that. Talon's Reach too. Councilwoman Bergen too had we were able to use and get some one-time stimulus funds to put into that, which is fantastic. Kind of oriented for the kids section. So those are two things that, that is great. The Central Library was awarded a $3 million congressional spending, which is similar to the MLK thing that I mentioned at the very beginning of getting a $2.5 million to redo the second floor and to add a teen space. And I think like these are amazing. And they're also, we're lucky, I guess, to receive something like that. And I don't know if this will ever happen again, especially on this level. So, we're always looking at other things. Library staff we put together, National Telecommunications Information Administration is doing a lot of broadband work. And we put in a very, I think, competitive application to try and tap into $6.5 million worth of programming federal funds to deploy in our community. We won't know if we get that until next year, but I think we've been a little bit fortunate and almost lucky just with the stimulus and these kind of one-time big infrastructure or programming things. So we are working, we are trying our hardest to make this sustainable, but I think it is hard with the budget process because I do feel like these are kind of a flash in the pan things that likely aren't going to happen anytime soon. So next slide. I mentioned the MLK and the Central Library getting these one-time stimulus funds. So that remodeling, we're going to be very busy, especially next year, helping manage those. And especially with Ginger coming on board, and we have just, we're about to start a new strategic and facilities master plan, because I think that's probably the big thing we're seeing where we sort of lack in our budget the ability to build a new branch or to really update. and we've gotten lucky recently, but what does that look like for the future? And how do we serve our community, as it's a very big community? So we're working on that. We've, of course, meeting with the Friends of our public library. We've built up our board. I think especially going into next year, the fundraising, the advocacy part is going to be pretty big in terms of the work that the board is doing. But also the library, I think, is just continuing and doing what I feel is an exceptional job for what we have. So I think that is all I had. Thank you all for your time. I know that was a lot of information coming at you.
Thank you, Patrick. Councilmember Medina, Councilmember Coombs, do you have any questions?
Yes.
Okay.
So the numbers that you presented regarding the budget are, alarming. Like, I think we've known that our libraries have continued to both face cuts during COVID and not really make those cuts up post-COVID, and that there's a general funding issue, but to see how much lower we even started than our peer library systems is also like, that was surprising to see that comparison. I guess, like, my question is kind of while maybe the master plan will help, but like, what can we convey to the rest of council that, that's compelling regardless of competing priorities? How do libraries contribute to public safety? Framing some of the other services as kind of workforce development in terms of the job application and the maker spaces and these type of things, as well as economic development in terms of helping people with really basic needs. So yeah, I guess I'm just wondering, kind of from your perspective, and yeah, maybe Ginger, you are the one to answer this. How can we better and more effectively advocate? I think we've advocated for some increase in staffing to help with some staff burnout and turnover issues in prior years. But the increase is still not making up for the gap. And so I will leave it to Patrick, Laura, Ginger, whoever may have some ideas just for how we better advocate for our libraries.
Yeah, Patrick, do you want me to start? But I don't want to.
Sure.
You did a great
No.
job presenting the information, so thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ginger White-Brunetti, Director of Library and Cultural Services. We also have Joe McNeil, who is our Deputy Director for Library Services, and of course, Laura is with us. So great question, Councilman Coombs, and thank you for asking. And you sort of, in some cases, answer the question yourself, which I think is a couple-fold. I think, libraries just historically have been, maybe needed to evolve in its value proposition to the community. And I don't think Aurora is any different, and really being able to share the role that it plays in the community for, being a place for workforce, for language learning, for, early literacy. Our summer programs, do a great job of that as an example, and really elevating what these, in many cases, they're more community centers, or just as much a community center as they are, quote unquote, the library that we all think of when we probably were going to the library as young people. So I think part of it is just really articulating that value proposition. The other is, I think, harder, which is, really thinking about where are there opportunities in the future for, more creative funding streams. We've certainly seen in other communities that have gone to the ballot around some of these things, whether it's for facilities, through a bond measure or sales tax increase for, as Denver did, to supplement the general fund support that it received. I think those are things that, you know, maybe there's an opportunity over time to be able to do that. I'm really hopeful that the strategic plan and facilities plan that Laura has championed and we're so excited to get underway will be a place where we can not only gather that community input to tell that important story, but also to create a shared vision for the future for the library and the library system. Because that's where I think we're going to have both the qualitative and importantly the quantitative place where we can share that narrative all in one place about the importance that this does serve Aurora residents, and then also, you know, just cataloging where we have those deficits. And I think that is really going to be a powerful moment that we'll want to partner with council on to be able to talk about, you know, now what. So I'm excited for that moment and that day, and really want to, you know, think about what's the best way to again, to partner with council to dream what that next step looks like once we have all of that data in one place. But, you know, I'm open to anybody else, you know, sharing your thoughts around that.
I would just put an exclamation point on what Ginger shared about the strategic plan and facilities capital plan for the library. We are planning substantial community engagement as part of that. And so our plan actually will be to come back here and present to you all once we have a contractor on board on what that plan looks like, you know, what community engagement will look like, get your feedback on that. To ensure this is a real partnership on this exciting effort for defining the future for the library and also its needs.
I just have, I guess, a little bit of a follow-up. Ginger, you talked about funding streams, and I know the libraries have brought in quite a few capital grants. Mm-hmm. Are there kind of more operations-based grants that any organizations have available for libraries, or are things really focused more on the capital side of things? And if there are operations-related ones, like what will we need to do as a city to be kind of prepared and competitive in those types of things?
Well, we have been fortunate through the congressionally delegated spending, the earmarks, to receive those funds for capital for MLK and for Central, like Patrick mentioned. And I think, in fact, Joe and I were just on a call with Christina McClelland right before this at 3:00, who you may know, she was a grant writer for Denver Public Library. So we feel very grateful for somebody in the family who looks out for us in that way. And she would say that capital is actually the harder thing to come by, and it's sort of the operational funds that sometimes are easier. Having said that, I think it's just a challenging. I think libraries can be challenged to receive funding because they are government affiliated, as opposed to a nonprofit organization, which is why the Friends of Aurora Public Library is such a great partner and vehicle, because they are a separate 501c3 that we can access. And I'm happy to have a long conversation about that partnership and arrangement, because I think there's opportunities for improvement there, to be perfectly honest. When it comes to the operational grants, the strategic plan is also going to be really helpful for that too, because again, it's going to be that place where we're able to say programmatically where we want to go, geographically where we want to go, and you know what could be, if and you know, be able to share that, I think, in a very comprehensive way with potential funders. And we did, you know, apply for a grant, again, federal dollars, We heard that we were one of 760 some applicants. What was the total, Joe? It was something staggering, like 600, was it $6 billion worth of requests?
Yeah, something like that. And it was several fold times what is actually available.
Yeah.
But I think we have a good application.
Yes.
For our community.
Yes. So we requested a little over $6 million, and that would create a digital equity lab at Hoffman Library, like Patrick mentioned. So that is both a programmatic and a capital opportunity, which those are even fewer and further between. But I promise you, we're looking, and our eyes are open for other people's money all the time. So that's what we'll continue to do.
That funding also includes money for staff too. So we included that into the application so that we would have the ability to actually get these services to the Aurora community.
Anything else, Councilmember Coombs?
No, thank you.
Councilmember Medina?
Yeah, just a couple things. Yeah, I certainly, what everybody said, and Councilmember Coombs, I agree with everything she said there, is, trying to figure that out. To you, Laura, I know it's kind of short notice now, but, I do a lot of community engagement stuff. I actually have a training that I'm doing on this Friday. If there is anybody that on staff that wants to come, I'll open it to you. It's free. APS is putting it on. I have the police department, 3 of their staff are coming to that in particular, and it's around community engagement at the school level. But I mean, it can be brought anyway there as well. And I certainly can do things on libraries or whatever you want to do that as well. I can make it specific to that, and I'll just throw that out there if you ever want that training on community engagement, because it's a conflict of interest for me because I'm on city council. It would be free for you. So if you just tell me what you're looking for, I'm happy to create a whole curriculum on how to engage in your community as libraries and set that out for you and give you a scope of work, and then we can work together to make that happen. So that's kind of what I'll throw out to you.
Thank you, Councilmember. I think you saw a few head nods on the screen, so I'll follow up separately with you.
I love it. I love the eagerness. I love the collaboration. I love the free part, all of it. I think the only thing I guess, I think this is a question for you, Laura. I mean, I too was concerned with the comparison. And I know this is information only. Like, are you waiting until you've gotten further down the planning or the other processes to share this? Like, I think these types of updates would be helpful for all of council, like as like a gut check. And obviously not every council member goes to all of the policy committees. So I would advocate for that, but also just was curious if that was already on your radar.
We don't have this on the radar to bring to study session, as this was a update from the library board to the PR Plus committee. But I imagine, as part of the needs conversation through the strategic planning process, through the facilities master plan process, that these needs will come through that and be summarized, through that process here coming up.
Okay. I wonder, I mean, that's fine. I think sometimes it's helpful to like continue to build the case. Not that there's not a legitimate one anyway, but just like the consistency. Hey, we're underfunded. We've been told this before. Here's another like example. I think, because, I feel like these types of services are the first things to get cut. People funge with them the most. So I think being able to like consistently make the case, maybe it's just even forwarding the presentation, just a suggestion and recommendation. Okay, so that wraps up our item. Thank you to all of our presenters. and it's information only. And let's move on to the, is it, I have a different agenda item on like title. Is this the same as the NEA, our town grant? Okay, it's the same presentation. All right. Ginger, are you our presenter?
I am.
Okay, I'll hand it off to you.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Well, I just wanted to draw your attention. I spoke a minute ago about other people's money, and I'm excited that Library and Cultural Services has submitted 2 grant requests in addition to the ones we just talked about for the libraries. This is on the library. This is on the Cultural Services sort of side of the department. One grant request was to the National Endowment for the Arts. These are highly competitive federal grant dollars for a program that they call Our Town. And the purpose of Our Town is to utilize arts and culture to create placemaking opportunities in a municipality. These are very hyper-local grant opportunities. So our Library and Cultural Services submitted a grant, again, to the National Endowment for the Arts to activate Fletcher Plaza, which is the park plaza right in front of MLK Library on East Colfax, flanked by the Fox Theater. And as many of you know, that public space has been challenged and is unfortunately, in some cases, making it not hospitable to library patrons and to Fox Theater patrons. And so one of the ways that we thought we could try to stem the tide of some of that activity is to create public activation or activation in the plaza. So the purpose of this is to create, is to reimagine the design and activation of Fletcher Plaza by contracting, if we're successful with the grant, contracting with a partner, a nonprofit organization out of Texas called Better Block. You can see at the bottom of the slide an image of what Better Block does. They take public spaces and they really animate them with temporary furniture and streetscaping and playscapes to help animate a space. In addition to that, they also provide programming. Generally, they sort of do a takeover of a plaza or a park or a vacant lot in a community and do an intensive activation. The grant proposal that we put forward to the NEA is to, again, partner with Better Block, have them do a takeover for one weekend. But we know and we've learned as placemakers and activators of public space that you can't just do one weekend. Really changing behavior and getting people feeling better and safe in a place, you need consecutive activations. So what we would do is continue that activation into for a following 4 weekends. So a total of 5 weekends of really intense active programming in Fletcher Plaza. The grant period, if we're successful, would be July of next year into December. Again, 5 weekends of activity, September through October of next year. We would partner with Aurora Cultural Arts District, or ACAD. One of the grant requirements of the National Endowment for the Arts is that a municipality partner with a local arts-focused nonprofit. So we're very fortunate to have that ready-made for us in the district. But we also have other partners that we could tap to activate this 5-long weekend of programming. Our grant request was for the maximum grant award, which is $150,000 with a required match from the city. So hopefully we'll get $150,000 from the National Endowment for the Arts, and then we will get the $150,000 from other city budget, and we'll have a full $300,000 to really make an impact in Fletcher Plaza around this time next year. And then I have one other, we'll go to the next slide, one other grant that we submitted. This is a grant program called Arts and Society, and it's a consortium of funders that put money into a pot The consortium includes the Bonfils Stanton Foundation, Colorado Creative Industries, Colorado Health Foundation, Denver Arts and Venues, and other consortium of funders. And the intent for these is to utilize art in kind of a similar way to create meaningful and systemic change in communities. One of the spaces at the MLK Library that is underutilized and will be underutilized once we have our renovation is our the former retail space at an MLK branch. And I call it a kind of a jewel box because it's this 3-sided glass space that is adjacent to but attached to the library. And it is fronts Fletcher Plaza. And so we are seeking $35,000 from this consortium of partners to partner with the Boulder Museum of Contemporary Art to do 4 installations, 4 months each in this MLK space. And we're going to test some ideas as part of this because we really want to figure out what is the highest and best use of this retail space to really create that eyes on the plaza and also create a welcoming and inviting complementary activity to the library activity in the branch itself. And so again, we applied for the grant. We won't find out until next spring if we're awarded it. But the hope is that we would be able to engage with BMOCA starting in July of next year and then continuing that cycle of programming till the end of 2026. And so those are 2 things that if we're awarded, we'll be coming to council to get your approval to accept those funds and get off to the races to make those projects possible. But we're really excited about bringing in some other people's dollars to do some, I think, some innovative programming and activation, particularly in the ACAD neighborhood. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks, Ginger, for the presentation. I have a few, and then I'll open it up to my colleagues. As far as the Plaza Palooza, I see that September through October is the activation timeframe. If we end up moving forward with this, I just wanted to name and see how feasible it is to do some sort of like Dia de los Muertos themed type of event. I'm sure you could have guessed that I would ask that. Just for years, I know I've gotten requests from community, the district's majority Latino, and there's just been a lot of efforts, not just from arts like specific organizations, although that, there was a altar in the People's Building, but, like partners like Village Exchange Center, other like organizations, smaller organizations that have put some energy around it were, I know I was really excited about the Katrina Ball, but I just have been consistently getting like requests, and though we weren't able to do something this year, wondering if we could carve out one of those weekends to do something in that time frame.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, that was one of that. We have different themes that we're planning or, conceptually thinking about for each weekend that we put into the grant proposal. And one of those was Dia de los Muertos. So we are on the same page as far as that idea goes.
Okay, yeah, and I'd love to connect you with the folks who, I see a lot of symmetry, and we've done some research around the Santa Fe Arts District. So we've been in contact with the folks who put together their parade. Maybe something like that is possible here. I don't know if it's the same, outcomes or anything, but I think the earlier to get you and that organization connected, the easier it'll be to kind of land on something. So I'd love to connect you with that organization. They were also the founders of the Latin Fashion Week. So I think it could just bring a lot of high profile to the arts district. Obviously fashion, arts, lots of overlap there.
Yeah, that would be great. Please do. I would love that.
Yeah, thank you. Are we going to be doing the Katrina ball again? Because that could also be like a really great like symmetry and some synergy around the same time.
We're not doing it in 2024, and I think we need to have another conversation about whether or not that's something we would try to remount in 2025. It's somewhat contingent upon our relationship with the Friends Foundation and or the Friends of Aurora Public Library, because that's really the funding source for the seed money for that event if we were to proceed. So I don't have a definitive answer yet at this point.
Okay, maybe I can follow up with you. I don't think I understand that relationship very well.
Sure.
And would love to understand better. And then I think my question just kind of carries through to the art installation. Like what, like I think it's helpful to have a, a professional partner to lean on. Are we is that like proposal like set in stone? Are we able like I also know of, especially in the arts districts, folks who would happily and like love to contribute to some sort of installation. And if we're obviously trying to um uplift our cultural arts district, can we like incorporate some community perspective? And I'm kind of speaking broadly because I don't actually know how that process works, but that's just an interest of mine, is if we could name some specific, whether it's like an exhibit or do they get to contribute or give input. I'm not really sure the right outcome there, but that's another question I have.
Yeah, when it comes to the relationship with BMOCA, they really have competencies in managing artist residency kind of projects and installations, and so we would work with them, and I'm happy to share with you the proposal. But so they would identify Aurora artists who would be featured in those opportunities that really have the wherewithal as well as the interest in being in a space like that, having that kind of visibility and creating a unique project. But the parameters would be to partner with local Aurora based artists to do that. BMOCA being the one that could has the competencies to sort of manage that relationship and
Gotcha.
ensure a successful project.
Okay,
Yeah.
I think I didn't quite understand their relationship or involvement. Do we have any resources? Are you aware of any resources? Because it's like I totally hear that and I agree. Like, let's let that to people who know what they're doing, and partner with folks. But you know, do we have any like pipeline programs or training to like prepare people to like be able to apply for something like that in the future, right? Like
Mhm.
the BMOCA is going to do the vetting on who qualifies. Like, how do we have anything to help people qualify or get the experience that needed to like be eligible for something like this?
Yeah, I mean, I could talk with them about, a workshop or something that would help artists be prepared for that opportunity as part of what as an idea. Um, I think I know in some other cities there are programs to support artists to get, professional development support and other things like that. I believe that was the role of ACAD at one point. That was one of their Um, that was one of their goals as an organization. I'm not sure if there's anything that I'm aware of at the moment that, sort of filling that gap. And maybe I just am too new to the community to be able to answer that. But that's a good thing for us to be thinking about for sure.
Yeah, I guess if you could follow up with them at least on like a workshop, that could be like a good starting point. I know ACAD has, been going through their own transition, and I understand they're doing more, or they want to play more in like the marketing. I think they're still in development. That was kind of just like the last I heard, so I'm not sure that's still the case, but yeah, that would be great. Councilmember Medina, do you have any questions or comments?
No, I think you hit on most of the things I have. I just have one is just, will there be possible opportunities to have us like a small stage with music or some kind of activities like that to kind of attract people?
Yeah, so at the our town grant, the Fletcher Plaza activations, we do have funds set aside to pay musicians as well as other artists to help activate the space. So yes, music would be certainly something that, and film for that matter, to be a part of the offerings to animate the space and attract people to come and check it out.
All right, thank you.
Councilmember Coombs?
No, nothing from me.
Righty, thank you, Ginger.
Thank you.
All right. Last but not least, public art for the new fire station 9. Roberta, are you the presenter?
Yes, correct.
And this is this is not information only. You are asking to move this forward with a waiver of reconsideration too. And the waiver being timeliness to sync up with the construction timeline. Is that correct?
Correct.
Alrighty, go ahead and take it away.
Right. So we've been through a whole art selection process, and Michael Clapper is an artist who was selected for this project. Michael is a Denver-based artist. He's an artist who's not included in our collection, so this is somebody new that we would be adding. Michael's design for this project is based upon the Maltese cross, which is a symbol of protection, and it's the international symbol of the firefighter. So his project concept started with this shape. He has taken a map of the area that is served by Fire Station number 9, which, by the way, I'm sure you know, it's being torn down and rebuilt at the same location. So Fire Station 9, this is a map of the community, the surrounding community that is served by Fire Station number 9. And in the center, so Fire Station number 9's logo is the lightning bolt, and it is located near Lightning Hill. And that is where it comes to have this kind of logo. So now here you see the elements coming together into this three-dimensional sculpture, which combines the symbol of the protection of the Maltese cross, the logo of Fire Station number 9, and the map of the community that is served by Fire Station number 9 into this sculptural element. The lightning bolt will be lit from within, and when the intent is that when an alarm signals, the light will change from white to red, and it will pulse down the lightning bolt. Now, Emma Watson has advised us that, this is the plan. She hasn't guaranteed that it's doable, but they're working on it. And Michael Clapper, the artist, has said that he has done similar lighting effects at other fire stations. So we are definitely hoping that this will work. The sculpture will be approximately 9 feet tall, 9 to 10 feet tall, 11 feet wide, and about 3 feet deep. It will sit on a concrete base that you don't see here in the proposal image and surrounded by cobble. And this will avoid its being kind of a trip hazard. The materials are satin finished perforated stainless steel, steel painted fire engine red that you see around the edges, and integrated computerized lighting. Fast as lightning, the white light within the sculpture will turn red and pulse downward during an alarm. And then we've included Michael's, you can go to the next image. This is Michael's narrative that was included in your document. It basically covers the same information that we covered in summary. And then the final page is the budget. And the project budget is $66,000, which Michael has broken out into his costs here. And this was approved unanimously by, let's see, by the Art and Public Places Commission and forwarded on by the Cultural Affairs Commission. The art selection panel felt that he was their strong first choice, and it has great support from the firefighters. So we're very excited about this project and want to get it moving. Are there any questions?
I don't have any questions. Councilmember Coombs?
No questions from me, but I love that, just strong identification with the symbols that are important to the firefighters that work there. And I think it's also looks like a lovely and interesting piece that would also be a benefit to the community. So I fully support.
Thank you.
Councilmember Medina?
I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's reminds me of, like, for whatever reason, well, it looks like Captain America's like shield. That's what the image that pops in my head. And anyways, I also approve, Councilmember Medina, you do approve moving this forward with the waiver of reconsideration?
Yes.
Okay. All right, there you have it. We will move this forward.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Alrighty, that wraps up the business of the meeting. Any miscellaneous items for consideration?
None from staff today.
Right, doesn't look like there's any. Confirming our next meeting, which is scheduled for November 20th at 3:30. How is that work for everyone?
Let me just double check. Make sure I don't have anything. Yep, I'm good during that time frame.
Alrighty, me too. Thanks everyone. We'll see you next month.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.